Yo, what's happening, everyone? Welcome back to second video. I think that's part 2 of the video. And on the last video, we had a look at the app that we're gonna be building. We spoke about the dependencies that we're gonna be using, and we also mentioned that we're gonna be using MVVM to build the app. So MVVM is just a pattern, a way of structuring your code such that it's more maintainable. So let me first just explain what MVVM is in a diagram. So I found this really cool diagram here, and I think it sums it all up pretty good. So we have an activity or fragment, which is the user interface. It's what you click, what you tap on, what you see. And we also have a view model, which is a live data in it. So the view model is responsible for its responsibility is to get data from the repository, and that data is because it's going to be live data, that means the view is going to be able to observe it. So in plain text, in layman's terms, this here is going to fetch data from here, and this is going to fetch data from here, and then the repository is going to fetch data from either the database or the web service. If it's fetching from the database, it will use something like room, a library called room, which will access the phone database. And then if it's going to be fetching data from an API or web service, then we're going to be using a library called retrofit. Like, there's plenty of libraries out there, but we're gonna be using retrofit. So why are we using this here? You see, the view model, its only responsibility is to get data from the repository and then return that data or store that data in a live data. And then it doesn't have to know which activities or fragments is fetching the data from it. Like it doesn't even know whether the activity or fragment exists. So it has no knowledge of this here. Same applies for the repository. The repository, its main function is to get data from either a database or web service, and then it will keep it here. It doesn't know of the view model, doesn't know whether they exist or not. Cool. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, just go to YouTube and look up MVVM pattern, and I'm sure someone will explain it much better than I have. I'm very sure of that. Cool. So let's talk about the dependencies that we're going to be using. First, go to your project build gradle, and then you're gonna want to paste this line of code here. So this is for safe arguments. So like I said, we're gonna be passing arguments between fragments using the navigation framework that Jetpack provided. So this will allow us to safely pass those arguments. And then you want to go to your module level gradle file and go up, and you want to paste these 3 lines of code here. The Android extension will help us to extend the functionality of like something like the image view. Like, you know, the image view has its predefined functions. So if we want to extend and like add our own function to the image view, this will allow us to do that. And then we just applying the safe args plugin. It's that plugin that I just spoke about that will allow us to pass arguments safely. And then you want to come here and paste this line of code. So it's inside Android just before you close the Android tag, you want to paste this line of code here. And then I've defined the versions of the dependencies that we're going to be using. And then inside the dependencies block, starting from here, paste this line of code, paste this here again. This will allow us to create live data. And then this is for the navigation, and then this is just for the material, like we want to use material UI on our app. And then this is just retrofit stuff, which will allow us to fetch data from a remote server, and we want to observe that data, and we want to create singletons of the data, and we will use Rx Java for that, which is this. And then we have to use glide for the images, and I don't know what the heck this is, but make sure that you have it in there. And then press sync now, so it'll now download. Okay, looks like there's an error. Okay, let me try again and see. We might have an issue with our Wi-Fi. Let me just check. Okay, so I'm just gonna restart my Android Studio and I'll get back to you guys just now. Right, looks like the problem was, let me just undo this. So we had this here, and that was causing the error. This is like me, I think it's the old way of importing, like of applying plugins. So I'm just gonna redo everything I just undid. Cool, so make sure you fix this and hit sync, and then you should get it built successful. Now the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a fragment. So first let's create a package. We're gonna have one package for the view and another one for the view model. And yeah, let's leave it like this. And then we're gonna want to move main activity to the view, because it's part of the view. So the main idea here is to have one activity and many fragments. So we need one fragment, which is going to be the list fragment, as well as the details fragment. Let me create a fragment here. So let's create a blank fragment. Let's call it list fragment, and yeah, Kotlin. And let's have another one and call it details fragment. So the list fragment will show like the list of actors, and then the details fragment will show the details of the selected actor. So when you press on a character in the list fragment, it should take you to this fragment here. Cool. So now let's go to main activity, which is the starting point of everything here. Now let's if you zoom, sorry, let me just close the door. Sorry about that. Yeah, so if you zoom, you see you get a hello world. Now the first thing that I want to do is I want to like set up the navigation. So I want to have a button here. Okay, so firstly, before I do that, on this view here, I want to show the list fragments and not the hello world. And then from the list fragment, I want to have a button. So here, fragment list, I want to have a button here, and I want to set that button to I want to set the on click listener to take me to the details fragment whenever I click on that button. So I might not be making sense. I'm not even making sense to myself right now, but basically what I'm saying is when I click on a button on here on this fragment, I should be taken to this fragment here. So the first thing that you want to do is go to the activity main. So we need to do that and go to code, and let's remove the code. So here we wanna add navigation to this layout here, and the navigation will know which fragment to display. So we currently do not have the navigation just yet, so we need to create that now. So we're gonna right click on resources and go to resource file, and then from resource file go to values, set that to navigation, and let's just call this nav, and we can click OK. Cool. Now this is where we'll set the navigation. So if I press here, I get all the views. So first we have the fragment list, put that here. You see it has a home icon, so that means if we're going to be using this navigation, this is going to be the starting point. And then let's add another screen, the fragment details, and then we need to have a way of connecting these two fragments. So we can do that by just dragging this dot here. So this is basically saying from this fragment you can go to this fragment here, and then we need a way of coming back to the list fragments. So on the details fragment, you're going to select this dot and drag back to the list fragment like this, like so. So it's saying from this fragment I can go to this fragment, and then from this fragment I can come back to this fragment, right? And then we have to rebuild the project. So it will generate some classes, like for example, if you click here, you see the ID is what's the ID? It's action list fragment to details fragment. So it will generate a class like this, similar to this naming convention here, and then we can use that class to call this action to tell the navigation that, okay, I'm in the list fragment, I want to call this action here, and then the navigation will know what to do. In this case, it will take you to the details fragment, and same applies to this navigation here. Right, so let's just wait for that to build. And I'm gonna go in list fragment while it's building, and just gonna add a button. Okay, first I want to make sure I have a constraint layout here. Alright, so we have a frame layout. Let me remove what we already have. Let's have a constraint layout. and the width is going to match parent. My computer is acting up right now. I think this might be caused by the gradle still running. So I'm gonna pause the video and wait for it to finish. Right, so it looks like it finished building. And guys, if you get an error, something like this, if you get an error like this while you're building, just go to your Gradle file, this one here, and update the minimum SDK version to 21 and add this line of code here, and then build again, and then it should work. I actually got that error and I did that and it's working now. Right, cool. So here on the list fragment, I wanna add a constraint layout. And then it's gonna match parent, and we're gonna close it here. And if I go back to design, now you see we have this constraint layout here. Now I want to drop a button inside the constraint layout, and I'm just gonna put it in the center. And the reason why I'm using a constraint layout is exactly this. It's easier to censor stuff or to position stuff. So that's why I'm using the constraint layout. Cool. And you notice that the button has styling, and that's thanks to the material library, that the material dependency that we're using. Otherwise we would have a gray button here. Cool. So let me just go into code, and I'm just gonna call this button btn details, because it's gonna take us to details, and we're gonna say go to details. Cool. And then I'm gonna go to fragment, the fragment which is here, view list fragment. Right, we just gonna clear some of the stuff that we don't need. We don't need this, we don't need this yet, and definitely do not need this. Right, so we just have a clean fragment. So I'm going to use a lifecycle method, which is on view created, which is basically going to say once the view has been created, do this. So I'm going to say on view created, and you see it has a view, so we want to access that button. So we can say btn details dot set on click listener, and then remember we have a list fragment actions which was generated by the navigation. Remember I said after you've set the navigations, you have to build the project so that it will generate certain classes for you and certain functions. Well, this is the function that it has generated. Let me show you real quick. So let's say var action is equals to, now this is the list fragment. If you say list fragment directions, you see this, we didn't create this, it was generated when we rebuilded the class. Dot directions dot action list fragments with detail. So this is the arrow, this is the action that says, hey, Android, I'm in list fragment. I want to go to the details fragment. So we're gonna store that into action here. And then the second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna say navigation dot find navigation controller, and we need to pass the view here, which is it's this here. So we're gonna pass it, and then we're gonna say dot navigate, and then we're gonna have to pass the direction, which is the action that we just defined here. And just as simple as that, we've created navigation from the list fragment to the details fragment. Now we have to do the same thing for the details fragment. We have to add a button that will take us back to the list fragment. So we need to come back to the details fragment, the layout, and again we have to add the constraints layout. So I'm gonna add it here, constraint, and it's gonna match parent so that it covers the entire screen. And I'm gonna go back to design, and I'm just gonna drop a button in here, and I'm gonna censor it. Just gonna go back to code, and we have the button here. I'm gonna call it btn back, and I'm just gonna put back. And then last step is to go to details fragment class, and I'm gonna remove what we don't need. Just gonna remove a couple of things here. Don't need this object as well. And again, I'm gonna override the on view created. And I'm gonna access the btn back button, set on click listener, and I'm gonna create its action. And now we're on the details fragment directions dot. So we only have one action here. So if like we had more actions, for example, if we had another screen here and we had then like on the details fragment, we can go to that screen as well. We would have multiple actions, so just be careful which one you're selecting here. The one that we want is the one that will take us back to the list fragment, so make sure that you select the correct one. And then we're gonna say action.find nav controller. We're gonna pass the view, and we're gonna navigate using that action. Cool. So one last thing now, on the main activity here, if we run this app now, we will just get a blank screen. We won't get the list fragment screen. So we have to set the navigation here, and then we will select that navigation, and that navigation will know which fragment to show because we set it here. So it will first show the list fragment because it's the one that we set to home. Cool. Coming back here, just search for nav host fragment, not navigation view, it's just nav host fragment, and just put it here. And then we'll select this nav. We called it nav, as you can see here. Select it, and then press OK. Cool. So now it's showing the list fragment. Now I'm just gonna run this app on. I'm gonna have to run it on my device so that we can have a look at it. So let me just pause video for now, and then I'm gonna connect my phone. It'll show up here, and I'm gonna press play, and then I'll resume the video once the app is running. Cool, so now the app is running and we see that we are in the list fragment, and if I press on the code details button, we are taken to the details fragment. As you can see, now we can see the back button, and if I press the back button again, we are taken back to the list fragment screen. So that's it for this video. On the next video, we are gonna talk about the recycler view, and we're gonna hopefully we're gonna set up retrofit, and then yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do on the next video. And guys, don't forget to smash the like button, don't forget to subscribe, it helps me a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And stay tuned for the next video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Cheers guys.